Hey everybody, welcome back to RotoCurve.com. I'm Josh Collacchi here to discuss Week 7 in FanDuel, and we're looking at wide receivers now. We've already discussed quarterbacks, we've discussed receivers. I'm going to delve into wide receivers now, and of course you can see the tight ends and sleeper picks videos, which will be coming shortly as well. Now pair that, all this analysis and videos, and also be sure to go over to RotoCurve.com and check out all the footy tools and analysis over there. Now let's get right into it. Which receivers do we like for Week 7? The first one, and is a guy that I'm targeting pretty much each and every week, and especially in cash games, and that's DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver for the Houston Texans at 9,200. He faces the Dolphins in Week 7, and Miami has been one of those teams that has allowed a lot of fantasy points so far to wide receivers this season. They've given up 930 yards and 5 touchdowns in 5 games, which equates to just about 140 to 150 yards on the through the air and a touchdown per game. No, excuse me. It's considering the fact that Hopkins is one of the guys that sees some of the most targets and most catches and yards in the NFL. That makes his matchup even better for him. If you look at the last 4 games for the Dolphins, they've given up at least 175 yards and a touchdown to opposing receivers. So considering Hopkins will probably be matched up against any one of those corners, he's going to see another good game. Chances are he's going to be one of the top values on the slate, and top plays on the slate, and that makes him a play for me in cash. Now, why do we look at him each and every week? You've heard his name before, and you're going to hear his name again. The amount of targets that DeAndre Hopkins gets is really absurd. He has 15 targets per game this season. I believe he has 89 on the year. He's caught 52 passes in 6 games, and considering his matchup this week, along with those absurd target numbers, he makes for his top play in cash games on FanDuel because the guy has just been as consistent as you can find. Almost in reminder of what Antonio Brown did before Big Ben got hurt. Just you see him get 50 catches or 5 catches for 50 yards in each and every week, and that's exactly what Hopkins has been doing so far this year. So look at him in terms of the top cash game receiver, and he has some upside as he scores touchdowns as well. The next receiver is Larry Fitzgerald, who has seen a bit of a renaissance, a little bit of a rebirth in his career now that Carson Palmer is healthy. At 7,800, he faces the Baltimore Ravens in Week 7. And we all know about the Ravens defense in terms of their secondary, and it's struggled a lot. That's definitely going to be a good matchup for these Cardinals receivers, and it starts with Fitzgerald. Baltimore's allowed the second most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. They've given up 9 touchdowns in their last 5 games to receivers. And considering the fact that Fitzgerald is back to being a top-tier option with Carson Palmer, as we've seen so far this year, he makes for a top option for me in cash and in GPPs if you want to stack him and Carson Palmer together. Fitzgerald has had at least 11.5 FanDuel points, or 11.4 to be exact, in each game this season. And that makes him a very safe and consistent option. Now, before this, the last few years when Palmer was hurt, Fitzgerald was the complete opposite of this. But considering the fact he's been very consistent this year, he has an excellent matchup against the Ravens, and he still has Carson Palmer thrown to him. It makes for a very good option as a wide receiver 1 if you don't choose to spend on Hopkins, or a very good wide receiver 2 if you can afford it. The third guy is a guy that was really a relative unknown coming into this season, but he's been fantastic this season, and that's Travis Benjamin for the Cleveland Browns. Now, of course, it's a contract year, and you always see how guys end up doing in contract years, and this is exactly what Benjamin seems to be doing so far. He faces the St. Louis Rams, who have given up 76 catches to opposing receivers this season. Now, while that may not seem like a lot, that's over 15 per game, and considering that Travis Benjamin is the #1 receiver for the Browns, he's expected to see a ton of targets, and in that matchup, he's likely to see 6 or 7 catches, which is going to make him a very high floor play, which makes him a very good cash game play at just 6,600. Benjamin has been that high-volume pass catcher, catching 31 passes through 6 games. He has scored a touchdown in each of his first 3 games. He's had 6 catches in each of his last 3 games. So he can score in a variety of ways, and he's shown the ability to get in the end zone to catch deep passes, and he's actually shown a very explosive route-running ability this year. And that's huge because the Browns don't really have that in many other areas. As you can see, Benjamin has at least 10.5 FanDuel points in each game. As we just mentioned, he has 6 catches and roughly 80 yards in each of his last 3 games. So the safe floor is there. He has the ability to score a touchdown, and we always see him get a deep target or two as well, and that's a big way to score fantasy points. So considering that he has a decent matchup against a team that's given up a ton of catches to wide receivers this year, considering the fact he has a ton of targets, and of course the ability he has to score touchdowns, I think Travis Benjamin makes for a very good wide receiver 3 play. Or if you didn't choose to spend up on receivers, he's a good wide receiver 2 as well, especially considering his price. Thanks for viewing this week's edition of FanDuel Wide Receivers for Week 7. Be sure to give us a thumbs up so we can continue to bring you analysis each and every week. And along with this analysis on this channel, you can find everything over at RotoCurve.com for free. There's tools, there's data, there's stats, there's everything you can think of, along with analysis from a few great analysts that can bring you a profitable Week 7, and hopefully for the rest of the season, a profitable daily fantasy experience. Be sure to use everything to your advantage, and good luck, everybody. Let's win some money in Week 7.